All right, good morning, West Coast. It is 9:30. I'm joined in studio by Chris Lowther, who I have just called a dork indirectly. Good morning.
Hi, I think it's actually 8:30.
8:30? Did I say 9:30?
Not to correct, yeah.
I have a problem. Maybe I just like to, not that I don't like doing my morning show, but sometimes I just wish it was a little closer to the end of the morning. Much like you might, because you probably got a bit of a night ahead of you. Lots of stuff going on.
Yeah, the book launches tonight. No more sleeps. This is it.
So, let's actually, before we get into this specific event, let's talk about you a little bit.
Okay.
You've lived out, you've lived out here on the coast for an awfully long time.
Well, 18 years.
Yeah, that's pretty good for someone out here. They're here for like 18 months and they think they're local or something. But in your 18 years here, you've obviously experienced a lot of things, and one of the kind of unique perspectives, or I think unique to a lot of people, would be life out on a float house. How long have you been doing that?
Float house living 12 years.
And why did you make the choice?
Well, I was forced into it, actually. My partner and I, at the time, we were living in a cabin on Stockham Island, which is that little 40-acre island sort of off of a Pitsit there. And the land sold, so we were evicted. We were given, I think, 1 month or maybe 2. And, the housing shuffle in Tofino, especially in April. And then one day, this float house was being towed by. And it was a particularly cute float house. Because I'm not into float houses, okay? I'm not, I like to go for walks. I like to walk out the door and be able to walk instead of falling into the water. But it was a cute float house, and I remember thinking if I had to live in a float house, that's the one I'd live in. And it turns out we ended up living in that float house because we had to find a place right away, and it was available, and so that's how that happened.
And I guess if you were already comfortable with like smaller island living, the float house thing isn't a big thing. It's not like you were like, oh, all of a sudden got to leave the Range Rover back somewhere else.
No, that's true. But it was a lot farther up the inlet. To get to Stockham Island was maybe half an hour kayak at the most. And then all of a sudden this was an hour and a half, and you had to be going with the tide. Otherwise you kill your shoulders for 2 hours of grueling. I mean, obviously it's Lemons Inlet. It's beautiful, but storms made life more complicated. Yeah.
Well, the book is called My Nature.
Yeah.
And we talked about this a little bit earlier. There's kind of a dual meaning in that. It's a personal thing, reflection of your nature and that nature.
Yeah. Well, it is more like how me with my nature responds to the nature around me. Because I would never say, okay, that bay where I live, that's my bay. Obviously, it's actually Tlaloquiet territory, and, I'm living by their grace in that particular spot. So, yeah, it's more my personal nature, but obviously the poems are very much about the surroundings.
And a human element, too. I've heard you read at a couple of different events, and there's always
sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Yeah.
No, just the sex. Well, more like there's pain and angst, and healing, and because where I go to deal with that stuff is out of doors.
Cool. All right. I won't get into any more details than you would like to, but you actually come from. I know you're very proud of your mother as a poet. You have a family history of writing, and it's just awesome to see you doing your thing and getting your book out.
Thanks.
This isn't your first book that you've had published?
It's my second book of poetry, and I did a memoir, and I co-edited an anthology, actually 2 anthologies of over 30 writers. But this is really exciting for me because it's my first book of poems in 11 years.
So since you moved out to the float house, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, the first book of poems was done on Stockham, and that was all about healing from my childhood in the forest on Stockham. And this is just more about, wow, this place is amazing, with a little bit of angst as well. some poems about getting dumped and, that kind of thing.
The usual stuff.
Yeah.
If you're going to write a rock and roll song or a poem, you got to have a little heartbreak every once in a while. Yeah. I was actually just complaining that people don't write songs with girls' names for titles anymore. Like, that's just a sign.
That's so sad.
Yeah. I don't know.
Gosh.
It seems
then you're going to have to do that.
I've long believed that it's going to take people like me and you to save rock and roll.
Wow. Can I quote you on that?
Sure, that'll be in the
my new burden. Oh, I have to save rock and roll.
So tonight, 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
Cafe.
It's going to start. There's going to be lovely food and obviously whatever booze Darwin's has on offer. It's going to start with an open mic specifically for members of my writers group. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to do the main reading with pictures, with slides. Okay. So a lot of photos from up at the float. And then will be a brief Q&A, and then obviously book sales, book signings, more food. And then there'll be plenty of time for people to get to the 9:15 film if they so desire.
Sweet. So nobody has to miss out on anything tonight. Because I know you're a rock and roll sort of gal, and there's some good shows at the Legion tonight too. So you could do it all. You could have a whole night of...
I have to do story time at the library in the morning for the daycare kids, so I have to be on my game tomorrow morning.
All right. We'll let you off the rock and roll this one night. But you got the book in your hand, and you wanted to do some readings, or I guess we're sort of going to do some readings. I didn't actually read my lines, so this is going to be fun. Her part will be really good, but I'm just playing the bumbling tourist anyway.
Yeah,
right? Is
exactly.
that the idea? All right. What have we got here?
But your line is the first. Okay, the poem is called "Not Complaining," and you're the first voice up. All right. So are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it. All right. I felt like I should introduce it again. No. Okay. Oh, walking those miles of beach must be so peaceful, and all at your fingertips. I so envy you.
Well, lately there have been hundreds of squid washed up on the sand, dead and stinking, like some apocalyptic augury, and a few still living, watching through that black orb of an eye. When we tried to help them, they squirted ink, clicked their beaks, wrapped their tentacles around our shovels. They didn't want to go back to the ocean, like it was no good there anymore. Now the beaches teem with surfers holding their noses, arching their tight-suited strides to ballet step between bodies.
Never a dull moment, eh? You must love it, face to face with raw nature like that.
My most recent commute, the longest 20 minutes of my life. The motor was stuttering in a whiteout of waves. I didn't recognize my own bay. The float house bobbed like a bathtub toy. I tried to tighten the ropes without crushing my hand. Between bucking boat and pitching deck, every step felt like walking the plank. Sleep out of the question, like being in a car wash during an earthquake, a perfectly unnatural storm.
But invigorating. The fresh, clean air.
For the first time in 11 years, the bay stank. The trees could not filter the air. The clear green water had transformed mud brown, opaque, and rank. I couldn't see the ropes, the rocks, the jellyfish, the schools of pilchard. Wouldn't dare dip a toe in. My windows stayed closed. The resident seal chose to haul out, dry on the logs under my deck, reeking.
Just an algae bloom, I'll bet. Did it clear up?
Once the yachts and sailboats finally stopped for the season, I sat reading on deck when a blast severed the air. My hair seemed to separate from my scalp. The seal panicked, belly flopped into the murk, and hid. Sometimes I figure that's all I'm doing anymore, hiding, trying to escape Catface Mountain's copper drill. But I'm no seal, and there's no hiding from Satan smiting the ground. There's no hiding from tentacles of growth reaching deeper into the wild. And I am a part of both, the wild and the growth. There is no hiding from my presumed right to privilege and solitude. The only thing I can do is not hide, not lie, not turn my back on the portents, but keep squirting ink just the same.
Cool. I think the thing I like about local writers that are just really awesome is just the ability to engage you in a way that seems so personal. You know, I saw those Humboldt squid on the beach that time that happened, and another book, and I'm gonna forget the guy's name. Chasing Clackwood. It's another book.
David Pitbrook.
Yeah, another one of those experiences where like I've been there and I feel like this story or this poem or whatever is part of me. So that's kind of cool to be able to.
I'm so happy.
Oh, yay, that worked out. So tonight,
7 p.m.
Cafe.
sharp. Be on time.
Yeah, there has been an email floating around that says I think things start at 8 or 8:30, but that is not true. You want to get down
7
there 7
p.m. Oh, and it's free. It is free. It is free.
Free. Bring a couple of bucks for a glass of wine, probably.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But yeah. Okay, cool. Darwin's Cafe tonight in the Botanical Gardens. Chris Lowther, if they want to learn more about you, you've got to have a website or a blog or something.
Would you believe I still don't have a website? I have to figure that
What is
out.
wrong with you? I mean,
I have a Facebook page, or you can go to my publisher, Leaf Press, or I've got a little bitty page on League of Canadian Poets. But thanks for having me.
It's all right. I'll teach you how Blogspot works, and you can whip something up quick. That's all our website is a free blog that's on
Free is
steroids.
good.
Yeah,
Poets have no money.
excellent. All right, My Nature is the book. Christine Lowther is the poet, and you'll be able to hear her read more of it and enjoy a great evening at Botanical Gardens, Darwin's Cafe tonight at 7 o'clock. Thanks for coming in, Chris.
Thank you.